Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. As the Heavenly Emperor's hammer was just too destructive. The hammer's petrifying effects instantly swallowed everything within 20 meters of it, and the entire arena became a world of ice and snow. No. Wei Na gave a blood-curdling scream as tears burst from her eyes. Long Aotian wasn't just the strongest individual among everyone in the body sex younger generation, he was also her boyfriend, who she loved dearly, and her fiancé. However, her tears were just trickling down when her eyes grew slack. The reason for that was because she could clearly see that the enormous hammer didn't smash into Long Aotian's body, and even though he was thrown into the air as the hammer slammed against the ground, the golden hues on his body were gradually receding as he hurtled through the sky. Two figures separated in mid-air. Huo Yuhao was tossed into the sky, and landed back inside his all-terrain self-driving fortress that was still prostrate on the ground, while Wang Dongma stretched her wings and soared away through the air. She lifted her hands at the same time, and a hexagram array accurately appeared beneath Jiang Yishi's feet. Still struggling against the effects of the Golden Road, she was immediately swept into the sky. Wang Dongma pushed her hands out immediately afterwards, and a mass of intense golden light burst towards Jiang Yishi, the butterfly goddess / He's still alive. Long Aotian is still alive. Wei Na had forgotten that she was still participating in a tournament at this moment, and her tears paused for only a moment before they cascaded out like a waterfall once more. Wei Na was also very powerful individually, and this was the reason she knew very well that Huo Yuhao and Wang Dongma weren't affected by her attack. They had shown mercy to Long Aotian. Long Aotian somersaulted in mid-air as he dropped back on the ground. His entire body was quivering continuously. The Heavenly Emperor's hammer hadn't hit him, but Huo Yuhao's ultimate ice was so cold that he was still freezing all over. His face seemed exceptionally slack and lifeless, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How many people had died at the hands of the Tang sect in the previous rounds? However, the Tang sect gave him a chance today, in this match. He was still alive, still alive. Long Aotian realized, for the very first time, that life was wonderful. To be alive was to have hope, and he was the number one individual among the body sex younger generation. He was also the Heavenly Soul Empire's future emperor's son-in-law, and he was Wei Na's fiancé. I'm still alive. In this moment, his typically tough and cold face overflowed with complicated emotions and expressions as he lay there dazedly, motionless. You've been eliminated. Xingzhong was a little too slow, but he stepped in front of Long Aotian now. Wei Na didn't holler at Xingzhong for nothing, and even though he was deliberately one step slower, Long Aotian was definitely going to be eliminated from this match. Long Aotian was truly too frighteningly powerful in terms of individual strength. If one team had to win this round, the subsequent teams would probably rather have the Tang sect advance. Long Aotian's slack eyes gradually recovered. His eyes were full of disappointment and frustration as he looked towards Huo Yuhao, who had landed back inside his all-terrain self-driving fortress. Long Aotian nodded heavily before he turned around and walked towards the edge of the competition stage. He was strong, arrogant, and proud, but he also knew about gratitude. Furthermore, he did actually lose. Long Aotian's defeat was just as Huo Yuhao had predicted, and the rest of the body sex team members were greatly affected. Every single one of them was shaken to the core, and even their main control-type soul master, Wei Na, was full of rippling emotions. There was no longer any doubt as to the outcome of this battle. It wasn't hard to imagine how Jiang Yishi would end up, as she had to face off against Wang Dongma's butterfly goddess / unprotected. Furthermore, she was still being controlled and arrested by the Golden Road and Wang Dongma's hexagram array. Wang Dongma deliberately held back, and Jiang Yishi was eliminated shortly afterward. It was 7 versus 4 after that. Huo Yuhao had practically lost all his fighting strength, but he still had his all-terrain self-driving fortress. The Eye of Terror in the sky fired a powerful light beam at Wei Na without hesitation. Wei Na managed to recover and react in time, and fended off this attack. However, she sustained light injuries in the process. Bei Bei, Shu Sansha, Xiao Xiao, Jiang Nan Nan, He Kai Tu, and Wang Dongma unleashed their mighty abilities, and took another 5 minutes under Huo Yuhao's command while he struggled to keep his spiritual detection going to finally suppress their opponents. It was quite a challenge, but they finally emerged victorious. The round was over, and the Tang sect had defeated the Snow Demon sect, or rather the Body sect, and proudly pushed into the semifinals. However, Shrek's 7 monsters weren't in good shape. Huo Yuhao was completely spent, while Shusansha, Jiang Nan Nan, Xiao Xiao, and Bei Bei were injured. Shusanshi's wounds were relatively more serious, but the only two who emerged perfect and unscathed were Wang Donga and He Kai-tu. Even they had also expended a lot of soul power. It could be said that it would have been an almost unassailable task for the Tang sect to defeat an opponent as powerful as the Snow Demon sect without Huo Yuhao's planning. It would have been very difficult to determine who the winner would have been otherwise. The Tang sect didn't win because they were stronger. It was far more accurate to say they won because of Huo Yuhao's battle tactics and strategies, all the way from the single elimination matches to the group battle afterwards. Huo Yuhao had been dragging the Snow Demon sect by the nose the whole time. We won. We won. Shrek's 7 monsters exchanged looks with one another, and not a single one of them could hide the elation in their hearts, as they exclaimed excitedly again and again while embracing one another. Of course, this didn't include Huo Yuhao. He was far too spent, and could only move his right hand anyway. Even if he could bounce himself out from his all-terrain self-driving fortress, he would probably fall down and knock himself dizzy. Wang Donga pulled him out from his fortress gently. The tournament had progressed into the semifinals, and the semifinalists had been determined. They were Shrek Academy, the Heavenly Dragon sect, the Holy Ghost sect, and the Tang sect. The 2 teams from Shrek Academy each took a spot in the semifinals. Congratulations! Wei Na, Long Aotian, and the rest of the Snow Demon sect's team members arrived before the Tang sect. Wei Na's pretty face was still gleaming with tears as she grasped Long Aotian's left hand tightly with her right hand. Her smile was very sincere, as if she hadn't lost the match at all. Bei Bei chuckled and said, "Beating you guys in this round was difficult for us." Long Aotian said, "We will fight again if the opportunity arises." He turned towards Huo Yuhao as he spoke. Huo Yuhao was weak and exhausted, but he was still hanging on as he sat there in his wheelchair. He nodded back at Long Aotian with a ghastly pale face. Wei Na said sincerely, "Thank you for showing mercy, Yuhao. I will always remember this favor. Aotian is my fiancé, and I wouldn't have known what to do if something had happened to him during the tournament." Huo Yuhao smiled and said, "We are not your enemies, princess. Furthermore, the Heavenly Soul Empire is one of the Tang sect's biggest customers. How could I afford to damage our rapport and friendly relationship? Brother Long, we will fight again when I'm fully recovered. I have to admit that I can't defeat you at the moment if we go up against one another one-on-one." Long Aotian replied, "No, I'm the one who has lost today. I'm the team leader, but I was too focused on individual strength, and I didn't help Wei Na streamline the team and keep them together. We put too much faith in our individual abilities, which was the biggest reason why we lost to you in this round. Your team is a lot better than us in that respect. I've lost, and I've lost convincingly. However, my failure will only be for this day. From tomorrow onwards, I will work hard to make up for my weaknesses and what I lack." Huo Yuhao chortled and said, "We are not your enemies, but I'm very willing to be your rival." Long Aotian strode over to Huo Yuhao and reached out with his right hand. Huo Yuhao raised his own, and they smiled while they stared into each other's eyes. They were full of appreciation for one another, and all the grudges and ill feelings from the battle before this vanished into thin air. Wei Na walked over to Bei Bei and whispered some things into his ear. Bei Bei's head tilted to one side and his eyes sparkled, and the two of them interacted with their eyes before they bid their farewells and left the competition stage. 4 teams advanced from the quarterfinals, and the semifinals were about to begin. The quarterfinals' final match was undoubtedly the most epic and spectacular one. The Tang sect and the Snow Demon sect were both met with warm applause from the audience as they stepped off the competition stage. These 2 teams didn't belong to the Sun Moon Empire, but everyone knew how to respect strength and might. These 2 teams had obtained sincere admiration and respect from the Sun Moon Empire's citizens. On the rostrum, Xu Qianran didn't leave right away after match like he always did. Instead, he was just sitting there with a dark and gloomy look on his face. 15 minutes passed before Xu Qianran finally raised his hand to signal Zhu Zi to push him off the arena. He departed with his servants and his bodyguards escorting him. "Zhu Zi, I'm full of grievances after that round," Xu Qianran spoke and sighed at the same time. Zhu Zi said tenderly, "Don't be displeased, Your Highness. Even though the Sun Moon Empire didn't enter the semifinals, we still have the Holy Ghost sect." Shu Qianran shook his head and said, the Holy Ghost sect's strength doesn't belong to us in the end. If not for the fact that we have to deal with the body sect and Shrek Academy, do you think I would have been willing to work together with those evil and nasty fellows? However, we are falling behind in nurturing our younger generation. Shrek Academy and the body sect have lived up to their reputations as sects and entities with a long history. If not for our soul tools, the Sun Moon Empire might not be able to dominate the entire continent even after 10,000 years. Today's battle has enabled me to understand many things. I have been too arrogant and proud in the past. Juzi heaved a faint sigh and said, Your Highness, you will definitely become a brilliant emperor of the Sun Moon Empire in the future. Shu Qianran smiled faintly as he patted her hand. I don't care about being a brilliant emperor or whatever. What I care about is the process of expansion and development. I care about unwavering determination in the face of challenges, the ambition and the courage to reach the top of the world. My entire life is devoted to reigning supreme over the entire Doluo continent. Juzi said resolutely, You will definitely be successful, Your Highness. I will always be your pawn and your vanguard, and I will always be willing to fight for you, no matter the occasion. I will not regret it even if I have to die in battle. Shu Qianran laughed and replied, No, you are not allowed to die in battle. I am still hoping for us to share that glory and honor when it comes time. I will always need someone who knows my heart beside me, and you're the most important one. Juzi seemed touched as she responded, Thank you for your love and concern, Your Highness. Do you think the Holy Ghost sect can defeat the Tang sect, Your Highness? It seems like the Tang sect is quite strong indeed, judging from their performance today. The body sect actually lost to them. Shu Qianran answered, The Holy Ghost sect may not be stronger than the body sect in terms of individual strength, but don't forget where the Holy Ghost sect comes from. Their presence is very different from the body sect, and the most frightening thing about evil soul masters isn't their strength, it's their evil. Of course, none of that is important anymore. No matter who claims the championship in the end in this tournament, these elites of the younger generation have only two choices, submit or die. Juzi felt her heart quiver as she bit down on her lower lip. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be pondering something. The Tang sect had returned to the hotel. They couldn't be bothered with a post-mortem this time, and everyone went back to their respective rooms to rest as soon as possible. They had achieved their main goals in this battle. The body sect wasn't their enemy, after all, and the Tang sect had managed to win and progress into the semifinals without damaging their relationship. They had completed all their main tasks in this tournament. Huo Yuhao sat opposite Wang Donga as they channeled their Haodong power together. Color had returned to Huo Yuhao's face, and he wasn't as pale now. Today had been far too exhausting for him, and taken a toll on his physical and mental strength. Much of his soul power and spiritual power had been consumed. Long Aotian had been right, the body sect's entire team was too proud and arrogant, and they weren't able to unleash their strongest individual abilities, because of their teamwork, or rather, the lack thereof. But even so, Huo Yuhao was still overly spent as the Tang sect's team leader and commander. Huo Yuhao was thinking back over the entire match, as he sat on his wheelchair on the way back, and made his own evaluations about the body sect's individual team members. He realized afterwards that if both teams' battle strategies and tactics were in place and not problematic, there was only one way the Tang sect could defeat the body sect: his body had to recover. It was only then that his fighting strength could be unleashed to the highest possible level, and he could cooperate better with Wang Donga. Only then would they have a chance of defeating the body sect. They rested for nearly 4 hours before they headed to the canteen to eat. They were met with 2 guests in the canteen. More accurately put, they were met with 2 princesses. After their meal, Bei Bei, Huo Yuhao, Wei Na, and Shu Jojo sat together in the living room on the Brilliant Delight Hotel's top floor that belonged to the Snow Demon sect. Both princesses had lost their respective fights, and while the Star Luo National Academy was defeated straightforwardly, they managed to keep themselves in one piece. Shu Jojo's expression was very normal and casual, as she had already foreseen today's outcome, when they drew the Holy Ghost sect as their quarterfinal opponents. When do you guys plan to depart? Bei Bei took the initiative and asked with a smile on his face. Shu Jojo exchanged a look with Wei Na and said, We're not in a hurry. I think we'll wait for the entire tournament to end before we'll leave. If the Brilliant Delight Hotel refuses to continue providing their services to us, we'll find a nearby hotel to stay in. Oh? You don't seem like you're in a hurry to return home, Bei Bei continued, with the same smile on his face. Shu Jojo glanced in his direction. She had a strong impression of the Tang sect's eldest senior brother. This guy was handsome, and he always wore that faint smile on his face. He seemed scholarly and refreshed, and it was easy for others to have a favorable impression of him. However, his fighting style was drastically different from how he typically carried himself when he wasn't in combat. He was ferocious, and was as fearsome and intimidating as could be. Bei Bei and Shu Sansha anchored the Shrek's 7 Monsters Vanguard. Yes. We're not in a hurry. The semifinals and finals will be even more spectacular. Since we're here, we should finish watching the tournament before we go, Shu Jojo responded with a bright smile on her face. Most of the teams who had been defeated chose to leave. The tournament spanned a very long period of time, and the Brilliant Delight Hotel turned away those who had been eliminated from the tournament. Some teams couldn't find a place to stay in the city even if they wanted to. Of course, some of these teams had arranged things for themselves beforehand so they could continue watching the tournament. Most of these teams were the Sun Moon Empire's native teams, so it was relatively easier for them to stay behind. The teams that belonged to the Doluo continent's 3 native countries mostly didn't choose to stay behind, because they weren't very friendly with the Sun Moon Empire. They didn't want to stay for too long, because they were afraid that the Sun Moon Empire would take action against them. Shu Jojo turned towards Wei Na after she declared that she was staying behind. How about the Snow Demon sect, Sister Wei Na? When are you guys leaving? Oh, that's wrong. I should call you guys the Body sect. I didn't expect you to have so many secrets. You have twin martial souls, and you're also one of the Body sect's prodigy warriors. White Silver Second Awakening. Very impressive. Wei Na had returned to normal by now, and she still wore the same gentle and tender look as she always did. She smiled faintly, and dimples appeared on her cheeks like a fresh and pleasant lily flower. Since you aren't in a hurry to leave, then we are even more reluctant to go. We'll wait for the tournament to end before we leave. Shu Jojo smiled and said, that's great. We can accompany each other when we leave. I guess I'll have a companion for my journey. Wei Na nodded. That's good. Bei Bei, Yuhao, why don't we decide on a time and place so we can leave together after the tournament? You can call the others from Shrek Academy too. The more the merrier. Bei Bei heaved a faint sigh and shook his head. We are very exhausted today, my dear princesses, and it isn't very convenient for Huo Yuhao to move around. We've expended too much today, so we should stop beating around the bush and get straight to the point so that we can go back to rest after our discussion. Otherwise, the two of you can finish your discussions beforehand and find us afterwards. Shu Jojo's expression didn't change as she listened to Bei Bei calling her out on her tongue-in-cheek. Wei Na blushed, but she was still smiling pleasantly as she stared at Shu Jojo in amusement. The two princesses looked at each other, but neither of them seemed willing to speak first, and the room instantly descended into silence. Bei Bei waited for a little while before he heaved a faint sigh and walked behind Huo Yuhao. He began to push Yuhao's wheelchair, and they started to leave. Wait. Shu Jojo couldn't hold herself back anymore, and spoke first. Shu Jojo didn't have the same confidence and strength that Wei Na did. Even though she had faith that she was better than Wei Na at managing and handling things, Wei Na had the Body sect behind her, and there were probably many powerful individuals from the Body sect in the area. Wei Na had reason to be confident, and she had reason to feel safe. But what about her? Would her company be able to ensure her safe passage back home? Bei Bei pressed his hands on the golden tree wheelchair's handles and turned towards Shu Jojo. Shu Jojo paused for a moment and said solemnly, all right. I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. You guys have seen what the tournament is like. The Sun Moon Empire is becoming stronger and more dominant, and according to our analysis, the Sun Moon Empire has a malicious plan that they will execute after the tournament. We're not sure what their plan is, but the Sun Moon Empire's strength combined with the Holy Ghost sect is a big threat to everyone. We will have a hard time defending ourselves if they make a move against us, as this is their territory, after all. Therefore, I want my people to leave together with you guys. Together we stand, and divided we fall. It's easier for us to take care of one another when we're together. Bei Bei tilted his head. Shu Jojo had portrayed her sincerity relatively well with her words, and this was probably what she had meant from the start. Perhaps her words weren't complete, but they were enough to express her anxiety and worries. Wei Na nodded and continued, I agree with Jojo. Together we stand, and divided we fall. The Sun Moon Empire is too calm and quiet, to the point where I feel afraid. It would be a lot safer for everyone, and we will find ourselves in a better situation if we all leave together after the competition. At least, they'll have to try a lot harder if they want to deal with us. Bei Bei glanced at both princesses and said, either one of you can represent a country, but the Tang sect is just a tiny sect. We'll probably not participate in this. Both Xu Jiujiu and Wei Na were astonished by Bei Bei's response. From their perspective, the Tang sect had no reason to reject their proposal, but Bei Bei did so directly and straightforwardly. Huo Yuhao said nothing at all in his chair. He was being a patient listener. Bei Bei was the Tang sect's eldest senior brother, and was also the Tang sect's real director. Huo Yuhao would always hold himself back when Bei Bei was around so that his eldest senior brother could decide everything. This wasn't just because of his respect for Bei Bei, it was also because he had absolute faith in his senior brother. All right. It's getting late, princesses. We'll take our leave first. We can continue this discussion afterwards. With that, Bei Bei pushed Huo Yuhao's wheelchair and left the room. Xu Jiujiu and Wei Na glanced at each other, both of them temporarily rendered speechless. Wei Na forced a laugh after a long while and said, I thought Huo Yuhao was difficult to deal with, little did I expect that the Tang sect's eldest senior brother was even more difficult to deal with. It's apparent that he thinks we're not sincere enough. Xu Jiujiu also wore a black face as she turned towards Wei Na and said, Wei Na, I know that you have the body sect behind you. But you should also understand that the Sun Moon Empire hates the body sect more than they do us. If they really have some evil plan to execute, the body sect will be their first target, Shrek Academy will come next, and then they will target us. Let's have a heart-to-heart talk, what do you think? Wei Na tilted her head and said, all right, then I won't hide anything anymore. We are not just here to participate in the tournament, we also have to execute other tasks and duties. Bei Bei pushed Huo Yuhao and walked down the hotel corridor. He shook his head in exasperation and said, these princesses are so sly and cunning. They don't wish to give anything, yet they want to drag us onto the war chariot. They've calculated this well, but what do we have? We represent the Tang sect, not Shrek Academy. We don't know who they have and how many people they have backing them up, and we don't even know how Shrek Academy has arranged things. Our advantage is that our company is small, and the Sun Moon Empire can't do anything against us if we really want to leave, because we have you around. It's better for us to avoid getting involved in this. Huo Yuhao laughed bitterly and said, we will be much smaller targets if we lose the next round. However, if we win, the Holy Ghost Church will surely come after us whether or not the Sun Moon Empire targets us. Bei Bei nodded and said, there are still many things that are blurry and unclear. The princesses are in more of a hurry than we are, while everything will be clear after the tournament's next round. At the very least, we can be sure that the Sun Moon Empire will not make a move against us within Radiant City even if they want to. Huo Yuhao said to Bei Bei using his spiritual detection, eldest senior, I'm going to go out later. Bei Bei thought of something before he extended 2 fingers and tapped on Huo Yuhao's shoulder. Huo Yuhao nodded. The two of them had great chemistry with each other. Yuhao, be careful. Don't push yourself too hard. Don't worry, eldest senior. I know my limits. Bei Bei sent Huo Yuhao back to his room before he returned to his own room to rest. After returning to their rooms, Wang Donga started to help Huo Yuhao put on makeup. He had an appointment today. The makeup was used to conceal his actual looks. Wang Donga pushed Huo Yuhao silently out of the hotel. They proceeded towards a dark and quiet corner and quickly ventured far away from the hotel. Huo Yuhao's ability to disguise and conceal himself was an important reason why Bei Bei was so confident earlier. If their opponent didn't know when they left, how could he deal with them? Wang Donga pushed Huo Yuhao far away, and they even went around in a circle before they proceeded towards their destination. After walking for an hour, they finally stopped at a dark and quiet corner. Huo Yuhao was drained today. Although he had rested for some time, and his soul and spiritual power had somewhat recovered, he was still feeling weak and exhausted from the tournament. It was best to remain cautious. Wang Donga squatted down beside Huo Yuhao and whispered, he's here. Should I guide him over? Yes. I just used my spiritual detection to check. There's no one within a 500-meter radius of us. Huo Yuhao nodded his head. Wang Donga only stepped out silently after this. She didn't make a sound, and soon brought someone over from the other side of the road. Chenan. Sir. Chenan rushed to greet Huo Yuhao when he saw him. After witnessing what had happened in the last round of the underground tournament, he became even more respectful towards Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao's abilities during that round were an eye-opener for him. He had revealed the true abilities of an evil soul master. Naturally, Chenan's efficiency also increased as a result. How's the matter I asked you to see to? Huo Yuhao asked. Chenan hurriedly answered, it's almost done. This is the list. As he spoke, he passed a piece of paper to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao furrowed his brow when he saw the list. So little. Chenan laughed bitterly. Sir, I've already done my best. Rare metals are in short supply now. The Duskwater Alliance has stocks, but the higher-ups treat them as treasures. They claim that the value of these rare metals will soar in the future, and they are prohibiting the sale of them now. I only managed to get this much, because my friend is one of the higher-ups in charge of managing the warehouse. This must not leaked. Otherwise, I'll be dead. Huo Yuhao nodded and said, all right, let's just get these first. Don't worry, I won't let you do all this for nothing. Hold this first. As he spoke, he passed a card to Chenan. There are 550,000 gold soul credits here. Take it as the deposit. When you return, get the goods ready. When they arrive, I'll give you the remaining sum that I owe. When that time comes, your share will not be forgotten. I'll fulfill my promise to you. After receiving the card, Chenan didn't seem to be doubtful at all. Huo Yuhao's passing of the card to Chenan represented a lot of things. All right, sir. I have an idea. In a few days' time, our Radiant City Elite Soul Engineering Tournament's Grand Finals will be held on the second day, after the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament's semifinals are over. When the Grand Final begins, you'll naturally be competing. All the higher-ups from the 3 underground organizations will also be gracing the event. This will also the point where the warehouse is emptiest. Let's meet then. I'll get someone to deliver the goods, and you'll send someone to verify the goods. The exchange can occur then when we are both not present. It'll also be the safest time and place for us. What do you think? Huo Yuhao revealed a grin and said, not bad. Your idea is pretty reliable. Let's do it this way then. All right, you can return now. Take care. When the matter is settled, you can follow me in the future if you want to. Yes, sir. Thanks for nurturing me. Let me complete this task first before we go on to other stuff. After greeting Huo Yuhao again, Chenan turned around and left. As he walked out of the dark corner, he glanced around him before quickly leaving. Huo Yuhao revealed a cold smile on his face as he watched Chenan leave. This fellow's heartbeat was getting faster and faster when he was speaking earlier. Evidently, he must be lying. I can't tell what he's lying about, but it's pretty good to have obtained all these rare metals. Dorma, protect me. Let me see if I can get more clues from him. If I do find out anything, second senior, and I might not even need to compete in the grand final. Right here. Won't it be too dangerous? Can your body take it? Wang Donga asked concernedly. Huo Yuhao replied, I'm fine. There are very few people who will pass by here. I'll continue my imitation to conceal our figures. You just need to be more alert. I have to start, he's getting farther away. Let's hope he doesn't go too far. As he spoke, Huo Yuhao shut his eyes. A streak of golden light shone from his forehead. As the golden light flashed, it disappeared into the air. Huo Yuhao then remained motionless like a statue. His spiritual power had entered the concrete immaterial realm. In a fight, Huo Yuhao still couldn't fully fuse it with his soul power. However, he was much stronger at using his spiritual power now. A golden projection formed, consolidated from his spiritual power. It even carried a streak of his spirit. Although it couldn't do anything, it was able to cover much greater distances than his spiritual detection. It was also more agile. With Huo Yuhao's current spiritual power, he could cover up to 3 kilometers if he made his detection unidirectional. However, his spiritual avatar in the concrete immaterial realm was able to cover 5 kilometers. He had never tested his limits, but his spiritual power was exhausted at a rate proportional to how far his avatar was from his body. Chenan walked very quickly. After turning 2 street corners, he finally slowed down and proceeded like a normal person on the streets. At this point, he was already on the main street, which was bustling with people. The surrounding restaurants and entertainment facilities were also booming with business. The Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament had greatly boosted the economy of Radiant City. Over the past few months, almost all the businesses had been raking in profits. Chenin heaved a sigh of relief as he mingled with the crowds. He had always been cautious, and thus was certain that he wasn't going to face any problems anymore. Every man for himself. Chenin revealed a cold smile on his face. As he walked, he thought to himself, by working with that mysterious evil soul master, I'm sure I can change my destiny. Since I'm going to do it, I must gain as many benefits as possible. As long as I'm stealthy, I can please both sides and emerge as the biggest profiteer. As he thought of all this, his footsteps became quicker. After passing through the main street, he turned into a narrow alley and walked quickly. However, he wasn't aware that there was an invisible spiritual avatar observing all his actions less than 3 meters above his head. In places where there were fewer people, Chenin walked very quickly. He continuously cut through various streets and alleys to change his position. It also seemed as if he were going in circles. After walking for about 15 minutes, he reached a huge building. At this point, Huo Yuhao revealed a shocked look on his face. That was because this place was too familiar. It was the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Chenin didn't enter the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. He followed a path at the side of the academy before entering an alley. This alley was behind the academy. There was another building here, which seemed like a residential property. However, Chenin was stopped by a soldier in full battle attire the moment he walked into this alley. Chenin retrieved a token before he was allowed to enter. Huo Yuhao had been in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy for 2 years, but he hadn't known there was something like this behind the academy. After all, he had been more focused on soul tools then. Furthermore, the exchange students from Shrek Academy were normally watched very closely. Chenin heaved a sigh of relief as he walked into a wide courtyard. There was someone waiting for him there. How is it? Have you settled things over at the buyer's side? There was a middle-aged man waiting for Chenin. He had ordinary looks, but seemed very anxious now. It was obvious that he had been waiting for quite some time. Chenin nodded and replied, "Don't worry. Everything's settled. I even brought his deposit. Brother Lee, there must be nothing wrong with the goods. If we do this well, we won't have to worry about money for the rest of our lives. It's fine as long as the buyer is okay with everything. We've already started preparing over here. Don't worry, I'm one of the 6 in charge of the warehouse. In addition, I'm the main person in charge. I'm the vice supervisor. I've already started preparing since many years ago. It's very strict in the warehouse, but I have my methods. No one is better than me at creating fake rare metals. Others can't hide them in their storage-type soul tools, but I can. Where's the deposit? Also, please take a look at the list again. See whether it's right." As he spoke, he passed a list to Chenin took out a card and said, "There are 200,000 gold soul coins here. It's the deposit. The remainder will be paid when the goods are delivered." This video will end here.